So, one of the most important pieces of equipment for recurve archery is the tab. And there, there are about a million different tabs to choose from. So, today I've got a special video for you because I'm going to be going through some of the best options for recurve tabs, along with my good friend Mike Pitt as well, who joins me here today. How are you doing, Mike?
Hi Ash, I'm doing really well.
Awesome. So I think we've got some interesting kind of tab discussion to kind of go through, haven't we? What's your kind of initial reaction when we talk about beginner tabs?
I think when you've got beginner tabs, you can it's like you almost don't want to get it's tempting to give them the elite top end tab straight away,
Yeah,
but sometimes that can add in a bit of complexity or just a bit of awkwardness. I mean, at the very beginning, I do just teach people with just the simple piece of leather, and
the
then you can
beginner one,
teach them
right?
finger spacing. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So I think this is a really good point, and I want to highlight this for beginners as well. Is I really love the Black Widow tab in particular, or any tab. I guess you do as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's been around for decades and it's really good.
Yeah, so I'll just bring that up on the screen so people can see now as well. But if I go Black Widow finger tab, one of the best things about this is it doesn't have a finger spacer. It costs, I think, about $9 or something.
Very affordable, very economical, yes.
Yeah, so something like this is such a good option because did you use this as well when you started? Because I used this when I started and it helped me basically not pinch the arrow.
It would have been even the one down from this. I would have just started with just a single piece of leather with the hole cut through for your finger. So even
Yeah,
sort of one less than this.
exactly. And I think this is a great option because A, it's cheap. If you cut it too much and ruin the leather, you can just get another one. And by learning to not have that, that rely on the spacer, because I see a lot of archers that go to an intermediate level, they get a massive tab, a huge spacer, so they split their fingers apart. But then actually, all that makes happen is then the tips of the fingers go together. So I guess
Yes.
yeah. So I guess
That
we're
can
on
be
the
and the number of times with the high speed video, we see this curled over top finger and
yeah,
it actually hits the arrow on the way past. So yeah,
exactly,
learning to keep those fingers square, not just separated here, but separated here
yeah.
is a big thing, can make a difference to the way your arrows fly.
Yeah. So I feel like we're kind of on the same page there. So for anyone watching, beginner tab, just get one of these Black Widow tabs. I think is probably the kind of best thing.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'll just put that up on the screen again there. So if anyone wants to check that out. Now moving on, kind of past a beginner level. What would you recommend as kind of like an intermediate tab? Say you've got done your beginner's course, you've learnt about that one with a spacer maybe. What would you recommend normally? What are your favourite picks here?
One that I recommend is the AAE
Okay. Yeah.
Cavalier tab.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm recommending that because I've been using it for so many years,
Yeah.
but I've never had a reason to stop using it. I remember it was designed in collaboration with J Bars, who then went on to win the '88 Olympic Games with it.
Yeah.
And it became like the benchmark. And it was by far the number one choice.
Yeah.
And I've used it with athletes ever since then. But as we come on to later on, there is some that I feel have sort of surpassed it now.
Yeah.
But this is still an excellent finger tap.
It is, and I just put while you were mentioning about that, I put some pictures of it up on the screen as well, because it's a really good tab. Also, it's Kim Woo Jin's tab, funnily enough, which some people might
Ah,
have heard of him, but
I didn't know that.
yeah, so it's Kim Woo Jin's tab, and what I'll do, I'll just grab some pictures here. So I've got some pictures of Kim Woo Jin's tab where he's kind of got that original, but he's also ground it down, which I think is really important to. Maybe we'll get onto that in a minute, but to modify the tab to kind of suit you essentially. So yeah, I think this is a really good thing to include there. But going on from that, so you mentioned that AAE Cavalier tab. Why do you think that's so good? Because I think this is a great option as well, but I can't understand why that stood the test of time so much. What do you think about it that makes it so good?
It was the first one that had little bits of adjustment. The fact you can move the plate on the top of the tab, the fact you
Yeah,
can move the spacer backwards and forwards. Before the previous tabs, before this one was designed, they were very much fixed. They were either molded from one piece of plastic or they used one piece of metal. and this one just seemed a bit more adjustable, a bit more personalized.
Yeah.
And for me, the thing I really liked was the cordovan face.
Okay.
You can
Yeah.
have it with a soft leather face,
Yeah.
or you can pay a little bit more and get the cordovan face.
Yeah.
And with the cordovan face, I don't know if I ever used one up. I feel like you can shoot with a cordovan face 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 10
Yeah.
years, and you can still have the same tab.
They last really long, and obviously because they're a bit smoother, a bit shinier, you get that quicker release, essentially that smoother release, don't you? Because
Yeah.
the soft leather, I don't think I ever shot with it that much, but I got an AAE tab to try, and I think I had that soft leather one, and I shot about an end and thought, no. It's
Cordovan,
yeah,
it's I would never buy the tab without that. That's like the cherry on the top. And the
Yeah.
combination of the personalization
yeah,
and that quality, let's be honest with you, horse leather, cordovan face,
yeah.
it's just really good. It's just a fantastic face.
So good. And also, I'll put the image up again here, but what's really nice about it, because it's got the kind of the holes in the metal like plate that's used for the tab, it's actually a lot lighter than a lot of comparable sized metal tabs, isn't it? Because I think a lot of modern tabs are really bulky, really heavy, but this has got a lot of frame that you can grind down if you like, but then actually is quite light. I remember from shooting it. I guess you shot it quite a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I just found like, and maybe with a lot of these intermediate things, it may not be because it's absolutely the best, but it's certainly never going to be bad.
Yeah.
I've never had an athlete not be able to use this finger tab. So
Yeah.
it's always going to be a great solid release, and clearly you can use it all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
And it's been around now for like 40 years, and that's nice that you can.
Yeah.
The parts are available. You can change it. Every shop you go to is probably going to have a spare face that you can buy.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you know that something's consistent and available.
And I guess also it's kind of like that spin wing of tabs, isn't it? It's just been going forever. So moving on from that tab, I think I'd have to agree with you on that kind of intermediate recommendation as well. I think a couple of other nice ones I love. Well, I'll bring it up now as well. But I also love the Win 360 for like an intermediate, or also kind of even an advanced tab. So I'll put
It's a good tab.
Yeah, there's some examples here. Very light. A bit annoying that the old version was riveted, so you couldn't change the leather that easily. But the new version has got screws, so that's kind of good. But as people will see on the screen here, it's super lightweight, very minimal. It's like about 0.5 mil thick plate, and it's not too bulky. So if someone's got really small hands, particularly, I think this is a really good tab. Or if they struggle with, you've probably had this. Maybe your archers have had this where they struggle and they rely on the metal going into the jaw, and they don't actually prioritize the finger like along the jawline. Yes. I guess this is a really good tab for people with that as well. Sounds like you've got some experience with archers with the 360 tab.
Yeah, it can sometimes be an issue. I mean, with all of these bits of equipment, it's possible to set them up wrong, and it's possible to get into bad habits.
Yeah.
But what we try and do as coaches is pick equipment that encourage people to stay on the path and hopefully cause less problems. And both of these tabs are really good for that.
Exactly. And what do you think with the Win EZ, which is the one without the ring, and then the EZR, which is that kind of big ring one? What do you think with those?
I might get criticism here, but I feel like they're just a bit of a gimmick. But then I also meet people who say they genuinely love it. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I don't see it as an issue. Yeah. But I'm also not telling them to buy it because of it. It's like, if you love it, well, fine. But I don't get it myself.
Yeah, it's not your first pick. I'm definitely with you, especially the EZR. I mean, I've got it on screen here so people can see, but this one here it's got it's like the Terminator of tabs. It's got like the ring on the back, and then it's obviously got the shelf, and then it's got the little finger hook, and honestly, it's a bit ridiculous. I kind of think the same. Like, it's a bit ridiculous, especially with the ring. The EZ without the ring is a bit better, but particularly that plate that goes back, I'm never a big fan of that because it basically kind of sticks into the back of your hand as well.
The number of times I've seen people who have chopped it off.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like, oh, it's not it's not that tab anymore.
So then
right?
they may have well got the AAE tab.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's not a bad tab.
Yeah.
Some people love it, but it just feels a little bit gimmicky. I do understand
Yeah.
the reasons for them all. They're all good arguments. I'm pleased someone is trying to add in something different,
Yeah.
but it's not really on my list.
Yeah. And to kind of finish with that, I should say, so the Win EZ is the tab that I shot the longest at that. So that's my current tab as well, if I were to shoot. But it's not actually an EZ anymore, because it is a Win EZ, but I took all the attachments off. I don't use the shelf even. So it's just a metal plate, and then that metal plate I ground down with an angle grinder. So I do recommend the Win EZ tab, but what I recommend even more is to take your tab to a angle grinder and make it exactly the shape that you want. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of my caveat, recommending that to people. Quickly, before we get to the next part of the video, I want to mention my Online Archery Academy video courses. If you haven't checked these out already, you need to go and check them out. You can go to onlinearcheryacademy.com and click on Explore the Courses, or go directly to courses.onlinearcheryacademy.com. There's a link in the description with a special discount as well. But essentially, I've got a beginner's course and an advanced recurve technique course. Essentially, in these courses, I teach you every single thing you need to know step by step, and I go through every part of the technique in great detail, as well as troubleshooting guides, how to train these certain areas and that kind of thing. And you can kind of explore the courses and see every single thing that's included on the website. So check that out if you haven't already. And also, you need to go to onlinearcheryacademy.com and get my free emails that I send out every week. I send out excellent tips every week, and I think there's about 8,000 archers now worldwide that read these. Everyone loves these emails, A, because they're free, but B, because the information is great, and you can just quickly read it in 2 or 3 minutes. You know, before the weekend, I normally send them out on a Friday or a Saturday, and you can read it and kind of work on some tips over the weekend. So get that if you haven't already. And also, there's a link in the description. If you want to join my community, you can go to members.onlinearcheryacademy.com. You can get access to exclusive videos from me every week, Q&A questions that you can submit and get them answered in videos, and also get coaching, private one-to-one coaching from Steve Weiler and Alec Potts if you want to sign up for individual coaching as well. So check those out, and now back to the video. What are your kind of feelings on modifying tabs and that kind of thing, with like grinding them down and adjusting them? What are your thoughts on that?
Modification is a double-edged sword. The more you modify something, the harder it's going to be to replace it when the airline loses it, when it gets dropped on the archery field. So you don't want to make yourself such a specialist tab that one day you lose it and you never get that feeling back. So if you can shoot with something off the shelf, that's great. But most of the time, most top archers end up modifying something.
Yeah.
Whether it's taking off a sharp edge, whether it's rounding something a bit more, whether it's maybe filing the finger spacer because it was just nipping your fingers or something. Most tabs end up with a little bit of modification, and that's totally understandable. But I'm always like, if you can use something without modifying it, there is an advantage there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And then you don't have to worry about losing it and that kind of thing.
It's instantly replaceable, yeah. But most people end up with a personalized tab. I certainly did. Just minor things, but when you're at the top end, these things are important.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, as we kind of progress from intermediate to more advanced tabs? I think any tab discussion probably wouldn't be complete these days without the Fairweather tab. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that's like super popular now. I didn't actually have a chance to shoot with it. I know a lot of archers that have, and archers that I've coached. What are your thoughts on that?
I see it being used. I've never used it, and I've never actually had an athlete using it.
Okay.
But from what I see, it's a very nice tab, and clearly some people are liking it and performing at the highest level.
Yeah.
But I've not actually had a student shooting one, and I guess because of that, I haven't actually recommended someone to change to it. But certainly from what I've seen in the pictures and people talking about it, yeah, it looks like a great piece of kit.
Yeah. I think I really like the form factor. The only caveat I would give if people were kind of considering that tab is, I know quite a few people, even top archers, that have struggled with a little bit of finger pain sometimes, or because the leather is so malleable, because it's that kangaroo leather, it beds in really quickly and is really flexible. but it also doesn't quite give as much protection as that nice cordovan that you were saying. So I know a lot of people that have either added another layer of kangaroo leather to make it a bit thicker, or they've gotten rid of the front kangaroo leather and added a cordovan and then a backing, but still use the plate and the ring, because I think the shape of it seems to be really nice because it's quite minimal. But these are just kind of considerations for people, don't get it blindly, especially if you shoot a high poundage, and kind of ignore any finger pain or discomfort. You need to adjust the kind of thickness. I think maybe it was you that told me there was I think Frangili came up with a guide of like 1 millimeter of tab thickness for every 10 pounds of bow weight or something as a rough guide, which I thought was interesting.
He was renowned at the time when he was an Olympic gold medalist and a world field archery champion, and he had a particularly thick finger tab, but he was often in the 50 to 55 pound draw weight range. Yeah. And he was a true professional. He was definitely putting in the hundreds of arrows per day. So that's what he found he needed to keep his fingers in a good state, because no one's winning anything if your fingers are messed up. So there's always that balance.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, no, that sounds good. And I know you've got a couple of other tabs that you like. What's your kind of going on from that intermediate to advanced range? What are your other thoughts on kind of some other unique tabs?
For the last couple of years, my sort of go-to tab has been the Shibuya tab.
Okay, yeah.
Available in both a lightweight made of aluminium and a heavyweight made of brass. And it's almost like an evolution of the AAE tab. It's a little bit more 3D, a little bit more sculpted.
It does look like that,
so it's still got that metal plate, but that has been sculpted, it's better shaped, and it's just like the next step. And like the finger spacer, it's got a beautiful plastic coating on it that just feels nice. It's just a really, not like all Shibuya products really, it's just a really nice professional finished product. And I must admit, I've been having some really good results with that.
Yeah. So that's quite popular among the archers you coach as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That finger spacer, because I remember now, so I haven't shot this tab, but a lot of my archers, some of them have tried that tab and then they liked the finger spacer so much that they've even taken that finger spacer to other tabs.
It feels great. It just feels so nice. So to me, if that feels great, you're sort of halfway there, and the rest of it is good quality, put together nicely. Leather is a good quality again. Yeah. But again, very much like the AAE. That's not like they've reinvented the wheel. They've just refined it.
Yeah. To make it a little bit better. I like the look of that. I'll have to definitely try that at some point. What are your thoughts on when you've got a tab, leather thickness and making sure that's correct, and also the consistency of that? Because honestly, I've had some, the Win-Win EZ tab, I really like the tab once I've ground it down, but I really like that. But sometimes the thickness of the leather varied quite a lot, which was kind of difficult, because you might have got on a tab that you really like, leather is really nice and thick, it wears down and you need to change it, and then you got a completely different feeling. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the thing. When I was using, as a professional archer, professional recurve archer, when I was using the AAE tab with the cordovan face, I can never remember changing my face.
I see, yeah. That's
because
a good effort.
It didn't wear up. I honestly believe for my entire time as a professional archer, I had 2 tabs, so the wear was divided between the 2, and I tried to shoot them equally as best as I can. Yeah. And I honestly can't remember changing my face. So I don't know if I used 2 faces for 10 years.
But you would change the backing quite regularly, I guess.
Yes. Sorry, good point. Point. The backing regularly, because if I spend a weekend shooting in the rain, that backing face has become mush and it's become misshaped. And then sometimes it can start expanding out the sides and touching the arrow. Yeah. So yes, changing the backing. But when you change the backing, I don't feel like that particularly affects my shooting. I feel like that's just having a nice, new, comfortable pair of socks. Whereas when you change the shooting face, it can change the tune of your bow, it can change your sight marks. When I'm changing the backing, it just feels like I've got a lovely, comfortable pair of socks. And maybe I might need to trim little bits off the edge, but generally speaking, it's a nice thing. It's not, whereas shooting in a new finger tab can be considered a bit of a chore sometimes because it might take several weeks to get that feeling back.
Yeah, if ever. Yeah. That's a great analogy with the socks. I think that, yeah, that's perfect, because that changing that front face can be, I mean, sounds like you've had the same as me. You kind of put it off sometimes because you don't want to shoot with the bad feeling for a while. Really? And you kind of end up doing that. But the back face, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's a great analogy.
I remember being on an elite training squad, and one of my athletes had a new finger tab. Sorry, not athlete, he was a teammate. And he didn't realize how much having a new tab made a difference. And when we compared the old tab to the new tab, if you were tuning them at 30 meters, the new tab would need a completely different arrow spine.
Yeah, it's crazy,
the
isn't
old
it?
tab, it was tuned perfectly. The new tab, it was telling him he needed to buy the next size up arrow.
Yeah.
So that's how significant we're talking. This can totally change the tune of your bow.
Yeah.
This is not something to casually do one morning before your competition. It's a big deal changing your shooting tab face.
Yeah, massively. And yeah, like you said, it can be a whole arrow spine, or like if people want to think in terms of poundage, that's going to be like 4, 5, maybe 6 pounds worth of draw weight change. Funnily enough, is a little bit of a hack if someone's really struggling for a tune and you don't want to buy new arrows and that kind of thing. It can be quite an interesting way of doing that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. I think that's some really good things for people to take away from today. So I guess kind of beginner tab, pretty unanimous, Black Widow. Intermediate is maybe like a 360, win-win 360, maybe the EZ at a push if you've got an angle grinder. And then it sounds like the Shibuya tab and maybe the Fairweather as well are really good kind of top picks as well.
Can we briefly talk about the most expensive tab in the world?
Oh yes, yeah, let's go for it.
The Axcel
tab. Yeah.
I don't know what's the particular name for it, Ash.
I think it might be is it the Contour? Is that the one that you mean?
I think that is.
Axcel Contour finger tab. I'll put that and I'll bring it up here as well so people can see. But yeah, that is.
Again, it's got things sticking out the back that you can move.
Yeah.
It's got heavy weights. It's got light weights.
It's got everything.
It's got everything.
It's got
But I've
grooves in
yet
it.
to recommend someone to buy it.
Yeah.
I don't really have any criticisms, but I don't also have any reasons to tell someone to go buy it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Have you had any experience with it?
I've had a couple of archers that I coached use this because they, you know, when it came out, it was kind of a big deal and people wanted to try it, and obviously Brady came up with it. So my take, I'll put it on the screen again actually, but so obviously people can see it's got loads of the grooves in and it's got loads of these attachments and all this kind of thing. My take on it is that is a perfect tab for Brady. So what I was saying about customization earlier, I think is really important, because I get a little bit frustrated when any top archer kind of sells a tab or a grip for their bow and markets it as a universal thing that everyone's going to shoot brilliantly with, because everyone is different. So I feel like this is obviously exactly what Brady needed for him, and it's basically almost suited to his exact hand shape. If you happen to have that, it's going to be amazing. But for most people, it's really bulky, it's really heavy, and doesn't actually kind of help them. A lot of the time it can hinder them, from what I've seen, because the space is quite big, it's quite thick, and it can give that issue that we were talking about before, where the knuckles are apart but the fingertips are together. Brady has learnt how to not do that, so he doesn't have that problem. But even the size of it is massive as well. So I really recommend for most people to go for something more minimal. If you're a beginner, that Black Widow one is massively minimal. But like the Win 360, the Fairweather is a much more like universal tab, I would say. So I think we're kind of aligned on that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't need a mortgage for the other tabs, so it's fine. It's all good. How many Black Widow tabs? You could buy 10 Black Widow tabs, or maybe 15.
They're great value, and nearly every shop will have them. That's the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, this has been awesome. So I think that's a really good video on tabs and kind of going through great options for recurve tabs. For anyone that's interested as well, I'd encourage you to go to Michael's archery page on YouTube. You're just starting your YouTube channel as well. So where can people come to find you?
Sorry?
So where can people come to find you? What's your channel name?
Archery Coach Michael.
Archery Coach Michael. Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah.
On there, trying to do daily uploads at the moment.
Yeah.
Covering everything from knocks to buttons.
Yeah.
To fletchings. So yeah, please come and give us a look, and hopefully I'm going to build that channel up over the weeks and months to come.
Yeah. And I mentioned in a previous video that you're kind of, obviously you've got a huge amount of experience compound wise, but you're also going to be covering recurve stuff. Let's just give people, because I think people don't appreciate sometimes, let's just give people an overview. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were world number 2 compound.
Yes, that's correct. Back in 2001.
Yeah. And then you switched to recurve. And how long were you shooting recurve? Like 15 years?
I think I've done 11 years,
11?
Almost full-time professional with a recurve, yes.
Yeah. And in that time, just a few highlights for people that might not know yet. You ranked first at the World Indoor Championships in Turkey, was it?
Denmark.
Denmark, okay. First at the World Indoor Championships. That must have been like, what was the score? That must have been a crazy score.
591.
Oh, that's a good effort, yeah. So, yeah, 591.
And at the same championship, Brady qualified first as a compound junior.
Oh.
So he was shooting recurve, he was shooting compound, I was shooting recurve.
Yeah. So 591 there, qualified first as a recurve, and then basically trained for a long time and competed on the British recurve team, the senior men's team. And then you were the Olympic reserve for London, essentially, right? For the London Olympics.
At London and Beijing.
Yeah.
And I had, for 1 week, I had the British national record for the 720 round at 673 for 1 week.
And then who beat that? Was it Simon that beat that?
That was Larry beat it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, first of all, Alan Wills equaled it.
Yeah.
And then Larry beat it by a handful of points a couple of weeks later.
Damn it, Larry. But no, yeah, just wanted to give people kind of an understanding of like where you come from and your background as well. So I'd encourage everyone to go over and follow Mike's channel. There's going to be compound stuff, recurve stuff, equipment stuff. There's going to be all the stuff on that channel as well. So yeah, it's been great, Mike. Thank you for everyone.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone watching as well. And maybe we'll do another one like this. Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.